As a senior learning coach, I've worked with thousands of high-achieving students in designing the perfect schedule and calendar, and what I've realized is that time management can be broken down into 6 levels. Number 1 resulting in chaos, and number 6 resulting in clarity. For most of middle school, I was at the lower levels, and my schedule looked something like this, which may seem effective because I'm scheduling every second, but I didn't get the results that I wanted and I burnt right out. And it wasn't until many years later that I was actually able to operate at level 6 of time management, which actually allowed me to have time for balancing everything from full-time work as a COO, running a business, family, exercise, relationships, and med school. But really, the thing is that I am not special. The students that I have worked with, they have done the exact same thing from going from level 1 to level 6. And so in this video, I want to go through exactly how to go from each level to the next so you too can control your time rather than letting it control you. And I want to preface quickly that the strategies that I'll mention at level 5 are used by almost every top student that I know, and it's something that you can use right after this video. Starting with level 1, chaos. This is where you are doing things when you feel like it. There's no schedule, maybe you have a simple to-do list, but we're mostly relying on motivation and willpower to get through everything that we have to do. At this level, you'll probably hear people saying things along the lines of, I'm feeling really stressed because I just don't know where my time goes. And the scary part about this is that without a time management system in place, you'll never actually know the answer to that question. And it's like if you imagine you went to school and they were just like the teachers, they said, yeah, you can just do whatever you want, whenever you want, right? Instead of saying that you've got maths class from 10 to 11, right? If that happened, nothing would get done. So to move from level 1 to 2, we need to use the same thing that schools use, the military, athletes, the CEOs, which is a calendar. Right? You already know this, but far too often I see students just try it out, don't see any results, or they just can't stick to it and they end up saying, this doesn't work. Unfortunately, just not being able to unlock the true benefits of the calendar. And the only reason that this happens is because they don't implement the strategies covered in the higher levels of time management. So to make our way up there, let's go to level 2, which is reactive. And this is where we start doing things at a certain time. We've started scheduling main events. We've got soccer practice, brunch, maybe you're transferring back the money that you owe to your friend, and you've started now to feel a little bit more organized. But what I notice at this level is that a lot of students between these main events have large blocks of unscheduled time. For example, between soccer practice and dinner, let's say that this person has 4 hours of unscheduled time. And they just go ahead and they say, oh yeah, well, I'm gonna make sure that I study, whatever it is. But they don't specifically specify what exactly they're going to do. And so not much actually ends up getting done, right? You end up kind of reactive and you're deciding on the spot what to do rather than planning ahead. And this is the point where people go ahead and they say that, calendars is just really not for me. I should just be doing things rather than scheduling because I feel like everything is always urgent. And this can just be simply avoided by going to level 3. Which is being proactive. This means doing tasks within a fully blocked out schedule. And this is where you've blocked out almost every hour of your day, and this reflects what you do in each day. Now, something to keep in mind is that this is not all of your work. You can also put in periods there where you just relax or do nothing. This can be heavily personalized, and you might also like to have many smaller events in there, like finishing off these textbook questions or the next assignment you've got, etc. Or sometimes you might actually be a person who has very large blocks. You have your study for maths, or you want to do a 2-hour math practice exam. Both of these styles work depending on whatever works best for you, but students at this level are very clear about what they're going to be doing within each block. And this is where we start to see results. And I know it can take a little bit of time to get used to this routine, but very quickly we start to have increased productivity and better awareness of our time and less wasted periods. Now that's all good, but over time, maybe weeks later, a common kind of objection to this is that people say that it's too rigid and that they can't stick to everything because it takes longer than expected. Now, these seem like a major problem with the calendar itself, but actually these are symptoms. For example, after a long day at school, you get home and you've got homework to do, right? And you have time to do the homework, but you don't really feel like doing the homework. And so your schedule becomes delayed because of this. And look, part of this is normal. Things can come up and they always do, But there is a technique that can eliminate this once and for all and double your productivity, but that actually only really makes sense once we've reached level 6. The action that we need to take right now to move us to the next level is to realize that having a solid schedule is actually not just about time management. It is about energy management, and that is level 4, being efficient. This is where students have a full schedule that manages not just time, but also energy. For everything that we do, we need to consider our energy levels throughout the day. And this is something that top students do all of the time. So let's go through an example. Firstly, let's look at a common mistake that actually goes ahead and saps your energy. And that is when students turn their calendar into a to-do list, right? And they have task after task after task back to back. So it becomes this kind of incessant barrage of things to do, which can really lead to burnout very, very quickly. So what we want to do is actually schedule breaks or buffer zones in between the tasks so that you can have some breathing room in between. And aside from that, you want to actually schedule work when you feel you're going to be the most energized. For me, this is either the morning or late at night, but definitely not afternoons. Just as an example, if someone does like a simple task like chores or checking emails in the morning when they have the most energy, then they have their hard homework or assignment in the afternoon when they're tired, that is just going to be infinitely less effective than if they just swap those tasks around. Two people can do the exact same task, but the precise order makes a huge difference. So ask yourself when you feel the most motivated to do work. You might be a morning person or an evening person, but typically for most people, this just means avoiding the afternoon 1 to 3 p.m. period, which is something called the postprandial dip, and is just a natural energy dip in our circadian rhythm. When we've got a full schedule that leverages our energy, you become more efficient at everything that you do. And you might as well say that, yeah, everything's all good, right? Well, almost, but there is often a kind of insidious issue lurking around. And I've spoken to so many students and they always say that like, oh, I'm so busy and I'm efficient, all of the time. And they genuinely are, but a lot of the time they still haven't got their dream grades yet either. And it has taken me years to learn this, but what I've realized is that we can't just be efficient, we also need to be effective. And this is level 5. Which is having a full schedule that directs energy towards your priorities. Students at level 5 typically get amazing results, but these students are not common. And you'll see why in a second, right? Getting things done in a certain amount of time is easy, and this is levels 1 to 4. But focusing on the right thing at the right time is the very hard part, and this is level 5. It's prioritization, and it's one of the hardest skills to learn. It's something I'm continuing to develop every single day because it's always changing, but it's also something that allows people to achieve in 1 year what some people would achieve in 10. So the best way to prioritize is by knowing the difference between urgent versus important. And often this just gets blended and no one knows the difference. Urgent tasks require immediate attention due to the time constraints. For example, you might have an assignment due in 2 hours and there's a consequence if that's not done. But important tasks contribute significantly to long-term goals and overall success. And this may not actually be the homework task that you've been assigned. And I know that for a lot of people, this might sound very strange. Instead, the important task might be to refine your learning skills, which in the long term will allow you to study every subject more efficiently and not even need homework. For most of us, our calendars focus too much on the urgent tasks, and that means we keep delaying the important tasks that would actually help us more to not be in that position in the first place. Now, to see how to balance between urgency and importance, professional world-class violinists are a prime example, right? They practice the violin intensely for the first thing in the morning for no longer than 90 minutes, followed by a very long break. And each day they actually never practice for more than 4.5 hours because there's just that drop in quality and it's just not worth it. What they do is that they do the most important task for them in the morning, and this is something that is called eating the frog. And when they get this done, it's because it's the sole thing that will help them the most in their kind of progression and career. For the rest of the day, they can go ahead and be guilt-free without having the thought of their practice lingering in the back of their minds. And just honestly, think about this for yourself. Like, imagine if you didn't feel guilty when not studying. The actionable step that I want you to take right now is to ask yourself, what is the most important thing that I need to focus on based on my weaknesses? And let's say if it's getting higher grades is your goal, maybe perhaps sitting down to reflect on your study processes to identify your true weaknesses is the most important thing that you can be doing. Maybe if it's about getting a job, then actually applying for jobs is the most important action you can do each day. If it's about getting better at writing, then maybe practice time towards learning how to write better every morning as opposed to just writing continuously. So make sure to block certain hours specifically to the tasks that actually move the needle. And ideally, you usually do this as early as possible in the day when you feel like you have the most time, and typically that's when you're most energized as well, which we touched on in level 4. And level 6 is clarity. This is where we're fine-tuning your full schedule directed towards your goal. This allows you to achieve mastery over time, and this is just much like top CEOs and productivity experts. The reason that we need to continuously fine-tune our schedule is that our calendars become kind of this growing set of data on how we've used our time in the past. And the reason that this is important to know what you've done is because, as I mentioned before in level 3, I talked about one of the most common concerns being everything takes longer than expected, and so my calendar doesn't work. And so here's the thing, it's not a problem with your calendar, but rather it's a problem that can be solved with your calendar, and with specifically this fine-tuning process. What you can do is you can look back at your last week's performance and go, okay, well, I said maths homework was gonna take me 1 hour, but for weeks now, it's been taking me 2 hours. So I'm gonna allocate 2 hours for it now next week. And then maybe months later, you find a way of doing it more efficiently, and now you don't need the whole 2 hours and you can drop that time allocation. In a similar vein, you can fine tune the exact order you do things to better match your energy levels. This is what we mentioned in level 4. Or you can match it to the level of importance and priority in level 5. Overall, by fine tuning your schedule from the duration, the order, or the priority, you will have a better understanding and can continually improve the backbone of your time management system, which is yourself. And that is where you finally reach clarity over how you spend your time. And by extension, you realize that although time flies, the good news is that you're the pilot. And that's the power of progressing through these 6 levels of time management. With that, thanks for watching, take care, and in case you find yourself in a time crunch while studying, you might enjoy this next video.